Welcome into Line Movement. Caught you drinking a little water there. That's okay. Tom Viola from Unabated joining me as he does every single week here on Tuesday. I was just going to say, Tom, you were muted, but you've rectified the situation. What's up? How are you? How was your football weekend?
Football weekend was not great, but I had a couple teasers at the end that saved me and made it not the biggest bloodbath in the world. Lost money, didn't lose as much as I could have lost. Shout out to the Chiefs for covering 2, actually. Eagles, not so thrilled that landed right on 3. I wish I had the 2.5 there, but alas.
I was actually able to middle that. We were doing that live on the Witching Hour on Sunday. I jumped on the live money line for the Birds, but I also had the Commanders plus 9.5.
Oh,
so
very nice.
Overtime basically cinched that 9.5 for me, and then just needed the Birds to pull through. Ron Rivera, what are you doing, man? On the road, could have gone for 2 to win a football game against a better team and didn't do it. But you know what? Yeah. That's why Ron Rivera is going to be fired from a second organization this offseason.
What happened to Riverboat Ron? Like that was his thing.
I said it on the broadcast. I was like, Riverboat Ron's got to be going for 2 here after they tied it up with 0 seconds left. And then the Pat unit comes out. It made no sense. Didn't understand it at the time. Still don't understand it. But, as an Eagles fan, we'll take 4 now.
As someone who had Philly in a lot of survivors, very happy.
Our guy Heisenberg was watching. He's commenting, Broncos saved my weekend. Thanks, Vance Joseph, for dialing up. Now, hold on. Heisenberg, watching on Twitch now. You said Sunday that you're going to take to the streets of Colorado to maybe physically, violently protest Vance Joseph as defensive coordinator. And now you're saying he saved your weekend. I love it. Thanks for watching, brother. Much appreciated. Glad to have you here. Coming to us from Capwise.
Story of the NFL there. One weekend, you absolutely hate him. Look at Zach. All of a sudden, I'm out here like, hey, maybe Zach Wilson is actually good.
You and Robert Saleh are doing the same thing right now. Hey, you know what? Hey, you just never know. You never know.
Outplayed Mahomes.
Anyway, as we do every week, we're going to go through some games, talk about the line movement. Obviously, Tuesday, we'll have some pertinent news about the Thursday night football game. Tuesday, a day off for the players in most circumstances. So injury reports, sort of begging for those. But we'll go through them one by one. You want to start where we literally just left off, which is talking about Zach Wilson here, Tom. And that's the Jets going to the Broncos. The Broncos, 2.5-point favorites going into this matchup of 2 teams that have really disappointed.
Have the Jets really disappointed? Yeah, you had all that preseason hype, but I feel like expectations had to completely change once the Aaron Rodgers injury happened. There's a difference here.
I would say both teams have been disappointing.
Right,
you would disagree with that?
I don't know. I guess I'm grading on the post Rodgers curve.
If Jalen Hurts went out and got hurt the first play of week 5, the Eagles would have a disappointing season, would they not?
Yeah. I guess that's fair. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm grading on the curve, but I think you make a good point.
Sure.
However, I don't know if maybe I'm overreacting to what we saw against the Chiefs, but this Broncos defense is still terrible.
So bad.
Justin Fields looked good against that. Justin Fields threw for 300 yards. 300 yards.
Yeah.
This man had 2 200-yard passing games last season. The Bears looked like a competent football team right up until the end when they completely blew it. But I don't. You got the chip that's going to be on Nathaniel Hackett's shoulder, and I'm going all in on narratives here on this one. I'm just saying, if the Jets can use the same game plan that they used against the Chiefs, if Zach Wilson is out there looking confident throwing the football, and I think this all comes down to the offensive line that the Jets have right now, because they look terrible through the first couple of games, but the injury to left tackle Dwayne Brown that sent him to the IR moved Mekhi Becton to the left side. Elijah Vera Tucker slides out to the right. And then the interior of the line has started to play a lot better. Zach Wilson actually had time last week. And if he has time again this week, if he's able to look confident like he did in the pocket, I don't see any reason why the Jets can't go into Denver and win this game.
It makes sense. This line, as I mentioned, 2.5. The Jets, 2.5-point dogs here at -113. Sport Trade specifically, this line has not moved. Open at 2.5. It's been sticking there, and I don't see a scenario, Tom, where this really goes either way. I think I'm actually surprised this is not in the 1.5 zone that we've been seeing for a good deal for a lot of these games with teams that just aren't that good, frankly.
And we are seeing those 1.5s elsewhere in the market. Like Circa opened this game 2, then it dropped down to 1, went back up to 2, and now it's back down to 1.5. So they're getting money on both sides here, and that's a common theme, by the way, with these games that are going to be in between that the 2 to 0 to back to 2 zone. There's a lot more movement because it takes less money to move that number. It's not as big of a deal. It's not as high of a win percentage shift as say 2.5 to 3, which is where you first start to get really big changes coming in. But yeah, call me a homer, but I feel like the Jets are the better team with the worst quarterback. But if the quarterback all of a sudden starts playing like, and if I'm not even saying top 10, I'm not saying Zach Wilson is good. I'm just saying if he looks like a quarterback who can have a starting job in the NFL, what's to like about this Broncos team over the Jets?
No, it's a good point. I'm assuming you'll be there. I think you're going to Denver, I assume.
Oh, I would love. Maybe I will.
I have no idea. Once you get past like Missouri and the Arches, I have no concept for how far everything is from one another. So
very, very far. The Midwest is very large, and there's a lot in between places.
Sounds great. Everything on the East Coast is within like 2 hours of itself.
It's why trains work on the East Coast and they don't work out here.
Yeah, not so much out here. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the ineptitude of the Bears and how they made the Broncos look, but it goes both ways, right? Like you mentioned, this is just an awful football team. -2.5. And Russell Wilson has had a great start by his standards last season, but competition has not been good. The Broncos have kind of skated by with an easy early season schedule. That's about to get a lot more difficult. So,
and you look at the teams that they beat here. They beat the Bears, which required a massive comeback, and they beat the Raiders, which, yikes. Or no, they didn't beat the Raiders.
No, they lost to the Raiders.
That's even worse.
Yeah, and they gave up. They were one of their losses was a horrendous loss to the Commanders, who we're about to talk about in 2 seconds as well.
Yeah.
Do you have a lean on the total at all?
Yeah, I like the over in this game, to be honest with you. Like, again, this is a lean here, but the Jets defense is good, but the Chiefs moved the ball on them. I still think the people saying the Jets defense has regressed massively or that demise is ill. I think that this is premature news of this is the quote. The demise of the Jets defense has been greatly exaggerated. There we go.
Well, the reason why you struggle with that one is because that original quote is like 3 times older than you. Maybe that's why. People think this Chiefs offense sucks. Chiefs are 3rd in total yardage and 6th in EPA.
It's the same thing with the Chiefs every year. Like,
people looked at them on the first night, the Thursday nighter against Detroit, and they're like, well, there's my narrative. I'm sticking to it. It's just not true. Yeah, like, that's an unbelievable offense. They scored 23 points, but whatever.
Yeah, it helps when one of your tackles gets to jump off the ball half second before everyone else on the line. But like, this is still the Chiefs. They're still going to be just fine, and they're still going to be great at the end of the season here.
Thursday night football, Bears and Commanders. So last Thursday, we had Thursday night football with the whale capper, Drew Dinsick. At that point, he asked me to guess what this line and this total was. I said I thought Commanders were going to be favored by 2.5, and I thought the line was going to be 41. I was way off. Commanders by 5.5. That's now moved to 6.5. And at last check here, the total is 44.5. So some slight injury news. It's Thursday, right? So teams aren't actually practicing, but they do have what is akin to a walkthrough. So there's guesstimations by these teams as to who would have practiced, who did not practice. Some interesting names for Washington. Both Curtis Samuel and Johan Dotson popping up on the injury report today. Samuel estimated as a DNP, Dotson as a limited participant. Now, I don't think either one of them is a huge deal, Tom, but I think the tandem of them is a little more newsworthy. Terry McLaurin had a great game against the Eagles. Johan Dotson caught the touchdown that sent the game to overtime. Curtis Samuel had big receptions working out of the slot. Again, I don't think one of these guys really moves the needle, but I think people just look at this Bears team. They suck. We all know they suck. Their offense is terrible. Their defense is terrible. They've lost 14 straight regular season games. And people were coming off a fresh taste in their mouths of the Commanders taking the Eagles to overtime and scoring 31 points. So I'm not surprised that this moved even just a little bit. Do you think this gets above 7, though? We're sitting at 6.5 on Tuesday. Do you think this gets to 7 or higher?
Well, it's gotten to 7, and it's come back down. So I think that the market is saying 6.5 is where this should be. And I don't want to lay a touchdown with the Commanders in this game.
No.
First off, I don't want to watch this game. This is going to be awful football. It's a hard pass. I think that Jahan Dotson being out moves the needle a little bit. He finally was starting to break through last week after a quiet start to the season. Curtis Samuel doesn't matter. Curtis Samuel doesn't do anything. He's not good.
It's more of a depth thing. If they're
yeah.
both out, it's a depth issue. But if Dotson's out, I agree with you. That slightly moves the needle. 20% of Chicago's offensive possessions this year have ended in turnovers. That's 1 for every 5 possession is a turnover.
Yeah.
Washington, this number is a little skewed, though. So Washington's at 17.8, but they turned the ball over 5 times in the second half against the Bills. And a game that was 16-0 in the fourth quarter. So fun with numbers, right? That's a little more skewed than I think we believe. And I'm curious if you think in your mind there's a correlation between turnovers and totals. Does it help or does it hurt? And which side?
That's the problem here, because I want to say turnovers are great for the over, but I can't remember exactly what the parlance was, and I don't want to give out the wrong thing here.
Yeah, we'll text Jack. We'll see what he has to say. The total on this one is 44.5 on Sporttrade. It has not budged. So the market makers, I think, have this pretty well pegged. And here's why I'm actually interested in the over. Got some numbers for you. These numbers are 31, 41, 27, and 38. Those are the points allowed by the Bears in games this season. And here are the offenses they faced. We teased a couple of them. Denver, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, and the Packers. What's interesting about these is here's where they rank in terms of total yards. Denver's 14th. You mentioned the Chiefs are 3rd. The Bucs are 22nd. The Packers are 27th. All of these teams live between 6th and 16th in offensive EPA. The Commanders are in the neighborhood at 19th. So I don't see a ton of variance in this game. And we just, again, saw the Commanders be able to throw the ball at will. The Bears also can't rush the passer. 2 sacks this year. They're pressuring quarterbacks on 15% of their dropbacks. So they can't rush the passer. Obviously, we know that works in tandem with coverage. If you can't get to the quarterback, you're going to give up plays in the passing game. They can't do that. And another thing that I think is interesting is obviously short week. Who has more experience working with a short week? Is it Matt Eberflus? Yeah, I mean, one of their last win was a short week, right? They beat the New England Patriots on primetime football. But I have to think Eric Bieniemy. I trust Eric Bieniemy a lot more than I trust Matt Eberflus and Justin Fields. So in that sense, terrible defense. Commandos defense that doesn't force turnovers either, frankly. I think this is a number that's pretty gettable at 44.5. I know this isn't a pick show. It's a market movement show. But just kind of sharing that. Find that to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to think the same way. The Bears are going to score for one team or the other.
Well, they're going to be the Bears are going to be chasing, I assume, right? So just like the Packers Lions last week.
I would certainly hope so. And the other thing is that the offense can move the football against a poor defense. And again, they'll score for both teams. They'll throw picks. They'll throw we'll get turnovers in the game, and hopefully that gives Washington short fields, and they can convert those into more points. I have a hard time not seeing this go over 44 when you're looking at those numbers too.
Yeah, that's my initial lean. And again, we will have Drew on the show about 10 minutes prior to market close and then through the first quarter. So check us out on Thursday.
Nice. Last week I got off with Andy Molitor on our Twitter space just as you guys were starting up.
I mean, an absolute masterclass. And look, like if you've watched Sporttrade's content, right? Like I'm in no way an expert. I'm trying to get a lot sharper, just like a lot of people who watch the content. And Drew is a masterclass. So it's a learning experience for all.
Drew's a great combination. And I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you to try to transition here, but Drew's just a great combination of smart guy and good on the mic.
Good on the mic. He's just got a peanut buttery, velvety voice.
He does.
He's so smooth, and his little studio there in California, parts unknown on the coast. Very jealous of his life. Chiefs and Vikings, Tom, opened at 5.5 on Sporttrade, now down to Chiefs -4.5. Can you explain this movement?
No. Well, part of it is, again, we're in a dead number zone here. 5.5 to 4.5 isn't that big of a move. It's not that big of a deal. We've got other places it's just moved down to 5. And yeah, it's not a huge deal, but it tells you that there has been a little bit of money coming in on the Vikings here. I'm I don't know. Is this an overreaction to the Chiefs needing the end of the game to beat the Jets on Sunday night? Or is it the market just liking the Vikings and thinking that they're undervalued in this spot with the Chiefs on their second road game here? I can't explain why the market is going the way they are. I certainly look at that number and I say, Chiefs 5. I don't mind. I don't mind laying that, but that's why I'm in a square box here.
Yeah. I think last week was like the perfect cocktail for the Jets, right?
Yeah.
Your primetime football, Taylor Swift is there, whatever. Like, I think there is actually something you can point to that says the guys know everyone in the world is going to be watching because she's there. And against the Chiefs, right? Like, there's a little bit of a last stand vibe to that game for the Jets. So I'm not surprised they gave the Chiefs their best bet. And I sort of agree with you. This is in a zone that I'm not really comfortable betting. However, yes, I think people are seeing the Chiefs 23, Jets 20, and sort of saying, I don't know, like that offense. I remember seeing that offense wasn't that great back on Thursday night and yada, yada, yada. And, a lot of people, I mean, this doesn't matter in terms of the line movement, but the narrative out there is, well, Mahomes slid and didn't go in for the score. Like, he's not interested in covering or anything like that. So I think that's a game that I'm not going to bet at all. I basically swore off the Vikings completely. Vikings and Chargers, I just have no interest in whatsoever.
I don't know. I might end up on some Chiefs in this one.
Okay. All right. Next up, Panthers and Lions. And I am just doing a horrendous job of updating this. Like every week I do this. I start talking and I stop updating the phone on the screen. Panthers and Lions. This one opened up at -7.5 for Detroit. It's now at 9.5, and Pinnacle actually just moved this up to 10. So the Lions are 10-point favorites. I think I saw a stat. I wasn't able to find it quickly before the show. I think it's the first time since 1992 the Lions have been a favorite of double digits or more.
Yeah, I tweeted this out on.
Were you alive?
No.
Jesus Christ.
This is I tweeted this out on my Market Watch tweet thread yesterday. Feels weird seeing the Lions a double digit favorite, and I realized, it's just never happened in my lifetime.
So what's the stat? You had it in your thread. What is the stat?
No, I just said that it was really weird seeing it.
Okay.
And then that turns out that's why it was so weird. I mean, the Panthers are bad.
Yes.
They buns.
Key point there. Key point. They're bad.
They're bad.
Yeah. Again, no injury report. Players day off on Tuesday. Again, I think this is obvious. The Lions look nasty. Their offensive line looks nasty. And
I'm like, this is a Survivor. Everybody and their mother is going to be on the Lions.
Yep.
I'm hoping the Panthers pull this one out.
So here, I mean, this is in Detroit, and you can just go through the splits and see Detroit is much better at home. Faster track. Goff doesn't terribly love playing outside. They're inside, fast track, and Bryce Young is presumably starting, and I think there are worse with Bryce Young, Carolina is, than if Andy Dalton were starting. Bryce Young in 3 games, he's thrown for 204 yards, 153 yards, and 146 yards. You just can't win without a running game either. You can't win playing that way.
They don't have any skill position.
They've nobody.
Who are their receivers? Who's good on this team?
Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, and a bunch of. I mean, who cares? Who cares?
And Thielen's old. Thielen's like your age.
He is. He might be my age actually.
Yeah, like that's.
We'll have to get stats and info on that.
Yeah,
I'm spry. I'm spry, brother. All right. I was front squatting earlier today, and I was crushing it.
No, you're going to be. I had a killer gym sesh last night, but you're going to be killing it when the Panthers call you up this weekend.
Yeah, well, as a high school offensive lineman and defensive tackle, I'm really hoping they're looking for
that blows my mind. What?
Just get a little more girth. I was 250 pounds in high school.
Boy, what?
Yeah, 5'10", 250. And what can I say? Just really rocked it out. I was squatting like 575 back in the day. Just a squatty cat. Technically sound. Made all the line calls. Very heady center guard.
Anyway, calling you Dagger Dan. You were thick, Dan.
I'm still thick. We've never met each other. No, have we seen each other in real life?
No.
Yeah, but you, me, and Modi have never actually met in real life, and yet we're on the text chain. Well, there you go.
Let's get me out to Jersey. I've been hankering for some pizza.
I'm with it, man. Anyway, who's not thick? Panthers defensive run unit. They've allowed the 6th most rushing yards this season. Not a small sample size either. They've allowed 130 yards rushing in every game this season. Again, Detroit, their splits home and road are a big deal. Here's something that's interesting. Carolina is the most penalized team in the National Football League. They've been penalized 22 times on the road this year in 2 games, 11 times each. So I'm not saying that's going to happen again. I would assume Frank Reich, who I don't think is a great coach, I would assume that that's like a big emphasis this week. The total, I mean, it's a huge number. It's just a huge number. Not really interested.
Look,
good.
The only way you can bet this is the Panthers. I'm not laying double digits with the Detroit Lions. I don't care.
No,
I'm not doing it.
Nope, can't do it.
I am not going to be taking the Lions in my survivor pool. I'm going to hope that the Lions and the Panthers just surprise everybody and we get the big upset again this week.
Totals at 44.5 at Sport Trade. There are some 45s out there as well. Again, as confident as I feel about an over 44.5 in the game we last talked about with Washington and the Bears on Thursday, I really don't have a feel for this. This could legitimately be a game where Carolina's like, we're 0-4, we suck. We're going to throw everything at Detroit. And this could be a game where Detroit wins 38-3 and it doesn't hit. So I'm not touching this game at all.
They need to tank so that the Bears can have the number 1 and number 2 picks.
Wouldn't that be fun? Marvin Harrison Jr. and Caleb Williams.
Oof.
And then trade Justin Fields for like a 7th round pick, I guess.
Yeah.
Your last game, Tom. This is an interesting one. Texans at Falcons. Falcons 1.5 point favorites. This is minus 2.5 on Sport Trade. It has not moved. Although we're more likely at Sport Trade, of course, to move our pricing as opposed to the line.
Yeah, you move pricing a lot more. Like you can notice, despite the fact they're just throwing out a different game here, but the Saints versus the Patriots, everyone else is at 1 or 1.5. You guys are at 2.5, and yet according to the unabated line here, you get the best price on both sides because that 2.5 is juiced to the Saints, and you got plus 108 on the Patriots there. Like that's how you guys operate when it comes to the pricing here. And hey, that's why something like unabated is a great way for you to be able to tell. We have calculators that help you say, is this 2.5 more valuable than this 1.5? We'll tell you exactly that. Head on over to unabated.com. There's my plug there. But getting back into the Texans versus the Falcons, this is an interesting game on many fronts.
This is America overreacts. This is the overreaction game of the week. We've seen CJ Stroud with 2 really strong weeks in a row. They're throwing the ball all over the place. Desmond Ridder sucks. I'm not betting this game either. I've sworn off Desmond Ridder. I will never, ever place money on Desmond Ridder ever again. But this feels like a game where the Falcons have gotten beaten up the last 2 weeks. They finally come home, and they're like, we're putting our feet in the ground. We're not losing at home. That's what it just feels like to me. But maybe that's why they're minus 1.5. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's pulling narratives here because the other side of it, the Texans get 2 linemen back, which is big.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud has looked good. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him so far this season. But then the market, and again, this is another one of those games in that zone between the 2 threes where you're going to see more fluctuation there. And we've seen that so far with this game going from, I mean, it's been 2.5. It was bet down to 2. It was bet down to pick 'em. It was bet back up to 1, then 1.5, and now 2 again. It's going all over the place. There's clearly, this is one of those games where different people are just on different sides of it. Someone's going to be wrong. Someone's going to be right. But yeah, I think I lean Texans here. But at the end of the day, just looking at the market, this is one of those games that nobody has any idea what's going on.
Over listed here at 41.5 at even money. What do you think? Atlanta's going to struggle to score.
Yeah, that's the problem. Desmond Ridder,
the quarterback just can't throw it further than 10 yards.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think your best hope here is that you get the backup coming in.
I don't even know who that is.
Neither do I.
Fair enough. Hopefully, it's better than Marcus Mariota was last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one I wanted to bring up, and this is a little more brief. An interesting one here too. Everyone's just like waiting and waiting and waiting for Cincinnati to come around. They're just like, some week they're going to explode. I don't know if it's this week. I'm not a Jonathan Gannon fan at all. But the Cardinals have been feisty, and that is I'm a
fan. I'm a Jonathan Gannon fan.
Look,
man.
This is something now everyone's talking about. The Cardinals are feisty. Like, it's a feisty team. They're at 3.5 on Sport Trade right now. So you have the hook on Sport Trade if you want it. This opened at plus 4.5 for the Cardinals, minus 4.5 for the Bengals. And as I mentioned, it's now down there. Most places are hanging 3. This is 3.5 at Sport Trade. And I think if you're one of those people who say, Cardinals are feisty. And look, the Bengals have been terrible. I mean, this is maybe a good opportunity to jump in and grab some value.
Joe Burrow's not healthy.
Not even close.
Now you got no now T Higgins is hurt.
And he may play that the pain tolerance issue with ribs, but I mean, geez. And the thing with the Bengals that's interesting is they only have 3 turnovers this year, so it's not like there's this huge variance at play. They're just bad.
Yeah,
like they just can't convert first downs. Like
I mean,
that's it.
We saw this last season too. They started slow and then they caught fire, but eventually in the NFL, you gotta start winning more games.
But different though, right? Like, appendectomy is not small, but Joe Burrow had 5 weeks to recover from an appendectomy. This calf injury is going to stick with him all year.
Yeah.
So I talk about it all the time, but when I covered the Packers in 2013 or 2014, they lost in the NFC Championship game in overtime in Seattle, one of the best games I've ever been to. But Aaron Rodgers had a calf injury for the last 6 weeks of that season, and it completely changed him the entire way. And he basically admitted that by the end of that season, he was done. He couldn't move. He could barely, he could throw. Obviously, he doesn't use his feet to throw ever. But this is going to sap him all year. I don't see a scenario in which Joe Burrow just magically wakes up one day and feels a lot better. And that to me puts this squarely looking at 3.5. The Bengals can't move the football. Then what do they do? They're so dependent on their defense to confuse opposing offenses, which is the only reason they beat the Rams last Monday night. So I don't know.
I'm inclined to head the same way as you are. That 3.5 plus minus 122 right now over at Sport Trade. That's the best line you're getting in the market according to Unabated.
Yeah.
And granted, I don't have every book set on my best line thing here, but you guys are one of those books that just always has that line hanging, and that is this is one of those spots where you want to grab that extra hook, especially because the way the market is going in this game so far, it's down from 4. This line opened 4 and immediately just has dropped down to 3.
Yeah,
the market likes Cardinals.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because I thought it was interesting. Now, if you like the Cardinals outright at home, plus 144, $40.50 per share. I'm not sure I'm that bold. Tom, before we wrap up, we're at the quarter poll. So I text you and I said, hey, give me your top 10 teams right now. Curious if you did the exercise or not. If not, I did. So you tell me.
Yeah. I think we could talk about this. I didn't really have time to quite go through it, but I got some rankings. I got a napkin written down.
Sure. That's all it takes. All right, then I'll run through mine. 49ers, number 1. Dolphins, number 2. Bills, number 3. Chiefs, number 4. Again, people think this offense sucks. It doesn't suck. They're using Isaiah Pacheco a lot more. They're using their backs a lot more. They're going to find ways to get production out of the non-wide receiver group. Not worried about it. Cowboys, number 5. You're asking yourself, where are the Eagles? Where are the Philadelphia Eagles? Aren't you an Eagles fan, Dan? Yes, I am. But I also watch them every week. They have a horrendous safety group, an even worse linebacking group, and any offensive coordinator worth his salt like Eric Bieniemy is going to repeatedly crush them. And Jalen Hurts just not playing that well, frankly. Eagles are 4-0. It's great. It sounds awesome on paper. Jalen Hurts not playing all that well. So Eagles are at 6, Lions 7, Ravens 8. In horse racing, when a team has a bad race, Tom, we call it a bounce, right? The Browns had a bounce on Sunday. Quarterback gets scratched an hour and a half before the game. Defense has no energy whatsoever. They get crushed. I'm not that worried about it. So I have the Browns at 9, Seahawks at 10. So Niners, Dolphins, Bills, Chiefs, Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Browns, Seahawks. What do you think?
I think you have some interesting spots. I mean, once you get down into that 10 range, that's when we're getting a little more fungible with the teams there.
I refuse to put any NFC South or AFC South team in it. So,
I mean, I think that is an incredibly fair thing to do when it comes to both those divisions are garbage.
Yeah, they suck. I mean, the Bucks are 3-1 and they're bad.
The only team that I could maybe think about throwing in my top 10 from there is the Titans. But
nope. Well, can't do it. Won't do it.
Yeah. I'm not doing it.
No, I have them to win the division. I like them to win that division because that division is terrible. But I just can't do it. Tannehill sucks.
I don't think he's terrifically good either. So
there you
go. All right.
Okay.
My 10. I'm going to work backwards.
Yeah, let's do it. What a pro! What a pro!
10 spot here. Give me the Seahawks.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
They might get pumped out. I got the Browns right there.
Okay.
It
doesn't make for great content, but you and I are best friends. Go on.
Yeah. I like Browns might be 11, they might be 10. Seattle and them are duking it out.
Yeah.
And number 9, give me the Rams.
Wow. Okay. Puka power. I love it.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp's going to be coming back. This team has been a lot better this year than last year. The offensive line is than last year. Come on, this team.
No. I think people are just kind of like penciling in Cooper Kupp to just like play Sunday. I have to see it.
Yeah, I don't think he's
31 with a massive hamstring injury, and now he has repeated hamstring injuries.
Yeah,
he's seeing hamstring specialists. Like I got to see him run 20 routes. I
don't know if he's going to be playing, but I still like what this team's been doing even without him.
Yeah,
and apparently you got the second coming in Puka.
Love him.
Let's see, Rams number 9. I can't go Chargers 8. Can't do it.
You shouldn't.
Yeah. I'll go Lions 8.
Okay. 7.
Baltimore.
Okay. We're thick as thieves here. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6, I think I go Dallas here.
Okay.
They're banged up a little bit. And that worries me. Like Trayvon, they're still getting over the Trayvon Diggs thing. The Patriots just aren't that good anymore.
It's amazing that their offense really hasn't clicked at all. And yet they are crushing teams.
Yeah, it is kind of scary, but then Mike McCarthy's your head coach, and I'm going to go ahead and assume at the end of the year that something bad's going to happen to you.
Very true.
All right, that's 6.
Yep. Number 5.
All right, so I got these 5 teams left here. Let's see. Number 5, I'm going. Number 5, I'll go the Eagles.
Okay. Are you live ranking right now?
A little bit.
Okay, sure. All right. I can sense that.
Yeah, I'm mulling it over because I got the Massey Peabody ratings up, but they're from last week, and so I'm not quite. I'm doing my own adjustments here. And number 4, Miami.
Okay.
At number 3, I think I have to go Chiefs 3 right now.
Okay.
I don't think that they're just quite as good as the other 2 teams at the top of the list. At number 2, I'm going 49ers.
Okay.
And I'm back at the top of the list with the New York Jets. The Buffalo Bills at the number 1 spot.
You're so young and impressionable.
I mean, the Bills lost week 1. Josh Allen was a turnover bomb, but since then this team has looked good. They've looked like the Bills of old. I was low on the Bills coming into the season. I still like the Dolphins a lot, and I think, but that loss hurts. You move down in the rankings for that. I still think at the end of the season, they're going to be a good team. Like they're going to be a team right in the thick of things, and I really like what they're doing. But the Bills won the statement game. They won the game that they needed to go out and win. And the last 3 weeks since that week 1 game, you talked about people watching week 1 and building their narrative for the season. The Bills have been the Bills since then.
Only time will tell. Tom Biola, thanks, my friend. Good to talk with you. We'll talk with you every Tuesday. We'll talk to you next Tuesday about some line movement as well. Where can we find the rest of your work?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at TV at Work. Market reports coming out every Monday to give you a snapshot of how line movement has occurred over the course of the week. And I'm trying to do some Tuesday. Honestly, I'm trying to do some updates throughout the week now. It's not going to be big Twitter thread, but it's going to be, hey, this line's moved, just dabbling in some of that. And then, of course, head to unabated.com. Use a promo code TV for a 5-day free trial.
Oh, new little wrinkle there. And while you're at it, use promo code WINNING when you sign up for Sport Trade. That way, Unabated gets a little bit of a kickback there. So, Tom,
there you go.
Pleasure as always, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. See you, everybody.